What's up, everyone? It's your host, Jonah. Welcome to the Blue Collar Enlightenment Show, where we learn new things every episode through conversations with guests from around the globe. So hit that sub button so you can keep up with the journey.
Hey guys, it's your co-host Pete. Today we welcome Shane Stanley. Shane is an award-winning director, writer, and producer.
Thanks for taking the time to talk with us, Shane. How you doing, man?
Hey guys, I'm good. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I appreciate you coming on. It's an honor, really. So how you doing today?
I'm doing good. The weather is definitely taking a change out here in Southern California. We're not as aggressive on our getting cold as I think you guys are back east. So, we don't really start feeling the colder days till about late October, early November. And we're still in the early 70s here. It's not been that cold, but we got Thanksgiving in a couple of days, so we're getting ready for that. Other than that, we're doing really good.
Ooh, 70s. What I give for some 70-degree weather right now.
It was like 61 earlier.
No, it wasn't.
Yes,
it
it
didn't
was
feel
when
like
I
it
went
was
to
61.
Yeah, it was.
But 70s, oh my God.
Yeah, it was 72 yesterday where I was.
Oh, this morning it was like 34.
And someone's not doing a great job keeping the fireplace going.
My bad. You get that deep sleep in the cold, from what I hear.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
God, about me. Well, I'm a filmmaker. I write, produce, direct. I cut. I grew up just kind of doing everything in the industry. I grew up with a father who was a documentary filmmaker, and at a very young age, was around the cameras, the edit systems, and always being on a set. So I learned a lot about the mechanics of working in and around the industry at a very young age. And when I finally decided to really put my energy and my focus on this industry as I was growing up, I had always been around people that had worn a lot of hats, and that's kind of always been my thing. So, I'm a filmmaker, which, kind of covers a whole bunch of the stuff that comes with it.
So what was that moment you knew that you were going to be doing this for forever, pretty much?
I think I knew that this is what I was going to do when other options ran out. And I grew up in and around it. I was very fortunate to have success at a young age in front of the camera, and then working in production with my family on some shows that did well. But it wasn't my passion then. I was more interested in being in music and racing dirt bikes and, chasing girls at 16, 17 years old. That's what we were built to do. You're not thinking career. At least I wasn't. I was a little behind the eight ball with that. And, finally, I always worked around the business. That was how I made my living and my income. But it wasn't until I was about 23, 24 years old that I hung everything up, other options up and said, okay, I'm going to commit. And I really kind of had to start from square one. I'd had a lot of experience and success doing things without the passion of doing them and being a part of some very successful projects. And, God bless my dad. When I decided I wanted to do this, I said, hey, I'm ready to go to work. You going to hire me? And he just laughed and said, dude, you could find an old Rolodex or something with some old phone numbers in it. Good luck getting a job. Start hammering the phones. And that's what he did. And, I made a lot of calls and didn't get very far. And just started making myself available to people that I knew that were willing to bring me on as an intern or free help. I worked for free for about, 2 years doing all sorts of different jobs on a set to kind of prove myself to the outside world that I could work.
And what's your earliest memory of being on a set, being around it for so long?
I think my earliest memory of being on a set, Jonah, was probably when I was like 4. I was doing this safety film with June Lockhart from Lassie. June Lockhart was a big deal I think she's still alive. And June Lockhart, it was some industrial film. And I remember working on that and being an actor in that and being one of the kids that, didn't walk safely and got hit by a car. I was always the kid that got hit by cars and got burned and got shocked or drowned or choked because he swallowed a rubber ball or something.
So being in it so long now, if you could go back and tell yourself one thing, really early on, what would you tell yourself?
God, that's a great question. I think I've made it a habit never to look back and regret or wish he'd done anything differently. But I think if I could have go back and tell my younger self anything, it would be to be patient. It would be to be understanding of the process. Things never happen in this industry as you plan. Even when they go well, it's never how you plan. Things come up so sporadically, and you'll be going down a path where you're sure you're going to be doing this, and that. You'll be working on a project that you're certain is going to go, or working for a company that you think you'll last forever. 3 months, for a blink of an eye, you could be on an entirely different project you never knew existed 3 months before, and working for a different company or different people, and there's just nothing is consistent in this industry. So you're constantly learning how to bob and weave with adversity, and it's an exciting life, but it's as you're trying to find your way and you're trying to carve out your trying to make a name for yourself. It's very hard. It takes a lot of time, and you have to start, as I said earlier, you have to start at the bottom and work your way up. And sometimes you find yourself working your way up and you start at the bottom again, and then you work your way up and you start at the bottom again. And it was nice talking to a lot of people that I knew that were older in the business, and it was a relief to know that I wasn't the only person that went through that. Because it's our industry. You have a lot of artists and people that are very myopic and selfish, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's feast or famine in our industry. You don't make it because you're in pods. Relationships are everything, connections are everything, but it's really about your work ethic. It's about your talent. It's about your, how you are from the minute you check in to the minute you check out. And I think that, when you're doing it, it seems like it's just endless. And I think, to answer your question, I think I just would have reminded my younger self to just be very patient. It's a marathon. It's definitely not a sprint.
Right. That's pretty much anything in life. You ain't going to know everything right off the bat. But you were speaking about the process and you were speaking about the processes and the inconsistency of the industry. Is there at least kind of a template that you use for every movie that you do, every film that you do? Is there a process that you have to go through start to finish?
There is. For me, I think that preparation's everything. When we commit to doing a project, I over-prepare going in because, growing up, when I'd work on people's sets, it was I could never understand why the wheels would come off the wagon. You see it. I see it in a lot of projects that I go visit. You hear about the horror stories, whether it's like what happened on Rust, with Alec Baldwin and the DP and the tragedy that happened there. Let's just call on it. And those things don't happen because you prepare. Those things don't happen because you don't allow a mindset to enter your workspace. People can throw mud and poo back and forth all they want on that. But at the end of the day, somebody somewhere in a decision-making capacity made a decision to let the inmates run the asylum. That's why that happened. And so for me, I don't do a film without at least 3 months of prep. I just feel like the amount of prep that needs to go into a project. So when you're filming, you have a plan A, B, and C. And that, to go into something anything less than over prepared is a waste of time. I'd rather exhaust myself in preparation for a project and make sure everything goes smoothly during the project shooting or the production of it. There's no excuse why, because a location falls out, you don't have another place to go, or because somebody on the crew got a better paying job and leaves you three weeks into a shoot, that he can't be replaced or she can't be replaced. And that all comes with experience of preparation, and that's, to me, everything. So when I get ready to make a film, there's a 3-month process that has to happen before, from okay, we have a green light, to actually going and shooting. And without that, it's, for me, it's just what I want.
Have you ever had an actor or actress quit on you halfway through filming?
No, but I've had enough of them where I wish they would have. I mean, you can work with some real unbelievable personalities in this industry. Never had an actor quit. And I appreciate all actors, even the difficult ones, because they bring something. No, never had an actor quit. Sometimes they don't want to come out of their trailer. They're nervous or uncomfortable, or they had a fight with a co-star or banging a PA and don't want to come out of the trailer because everybody knows, I mean, shit. This business has so much crazy stuff that goes on that, but I think it's gotten to the point where, I think it's about the respect factor. I think an actor would want to quit a show because they don't respect the people that are making the film. They don't feel safe on a set, whether it's because of the way people are treating them or the stunts that are going on or what they're being asked to do that could be dangerous. I mean, that's, actors are human beings. They're very sensitive beings. And they thrive on everything going on around them. I always say that they got their little antennas and barometers out, like these crickets, way out to here. So they feel everything. And sometimes you have a crew that's just not respectful and quiet and understand the actor's process. And I've seen actors walk or just go up to an AD or director and say, hey, let me know when the crew gets their shit together, I'll be in my trailer. I mean, it hasn't happened to me, but I've seen it, heard of it. Never had an actor quit.
Have you ever heard of it?
Oh, absolutely. We worked with Dennis Hopper. We worked with Dennis Hopper back in 2001, and he had shut down the previous 2 films he was on. He was so fed up or upset with the lack of prep or didn't agree with the storyteller's vision. I didn't get the gist of it. I just heard that we're really going to have to make sure we stay on schedule, and he and the director get along. I wasn't directing it, but it was like they have to get along because he shut down the last 2 films he did.
That's insane.
And, a star that big, Dennis Hopper obviously had his day, God rest him. He had his day of being the big star, but as his career and time went on, Dennis became a very bankable star for independent filmmakers where, if you were doing a $3 or $4 million film, you may be giving Dennis $1 million of that. And if Dennis quit and wasn't getting his way and decided, F this, I'm leaving, that was definitely putting a major wrinkle in the sheet,
Oh, yeah.
So it happens.
I'm sure it's a lot of work to have to go back and recut that film and redo scenes with new people.
A lot of times you can't. It becomes, and the actor knows they hold that power. Sometimes they just want more money. Sometimes they want more control. A lot of times, smart producers will insure against that. You can insure. You can do cast insurance. You can do all sorts of, they got insurance for everything, right? So, I don't know if it's called pain in the ass actor insurance, but they have, you could insure against cast. You can get a bond. You can have a contingency. Like I've been warned about actors before that I've worked with where I'll go to an investor and say, look, I want to hold that actor's salary in contingency because if they don't make it through due to a drug addiction or an attitude or they piss me off so much I fire them, I've got to replace them with somebody comparable. And if we get through this actor, then you can have the contingency back. we've had to do that a couple of times, and it ended up being a total not necessary thing, where it was just actually, wow, rumors about certain actors were really unfortunate because nothing could be further from the truth. And I've also worked with them where you think you're getting into a wonderful situation and you just wish the guide you had a contingency so you could fire them, pay them to go away, and then just start over. It's the way it is. I mean, some of these actors are unbelievably amazing human beings when you're not rolling camera, and some of them are not as amazing. And sometimes when you're rolling camera, they make life on the crew difficult. My crew is my family, and as I tell every actor and every crew member on our films, is whether you're the PA or you're the star or you're me as the producer director, we're all equal. I can't make the film without the PAs or the stars. The stars can't do their job without me or the PA. I can't do my job without either of them. So I really try to build a spirit of unity on our films. And sometimes you just get that one loose cannon that's just a real motherfucker.
Oh gosh, yes, I've ran into a few of those in my day. That's for sure.
But by the way, Dennis Hopper was amazing. I don't know what the problems were with anybody else. I mean, there's just some rumors come. I don't want to make anybody think I'm talking bad about Dennis. God rest him. He was amazing. And, I guess, people get along with actors that I don't get along with, and vice versa. But
right. And you, speaking of controversial quote unquote actors, early in your career, you worked with Charlie Sheen, correct?
I did. I ran Charlie's production company from, I want to say 96 to 99. That's true.
It's crazy. You were telling me a story of how you actually got that job. Can you hear about it again?
What's that?
Can we hear about it again?
Absolutely. No, I mean, first off, working with Charlie was really cool. He still does, I'm sure. I don't see him much. Charlie had a heart the size of, Kentucky. I mean, the guy just, never a bad day around him. One of true Hollywood bad boys that, had a heart of gold, and he's probably pissed off if he's hearing me say this because he's truly a softie. He cares. The way it was funny is he was good friends with Bret Michaels from Poison, who I've, been very close to. Bret's been like my brother for going on 28 years now. And Bret and he had talked about having a production company that really kind of thrived in film and music. And they were looking for some people to get involved. And so Bret was trying to push me for it. And Charlie had some people in his camp, I think, that he wanted. And so why don't you have Shane come out to Santa Monica Airport? He had, 2 airplane hangars full of cars. We'd go hang out on a Saturday and get to know each other. I got there and I could tell in 30 seconds he didn't like me. I just knew he didn't like me. When somebody doesn't like you. And that's okay. I'm an acquired taste. And so I, milled around, looked at his beautiful car collection for a couple of hours, and it was time to go. And somebody had said, "Hey, Charlie, Shane's leaving." And, he peeled himself away from somebody to give me a half-hearted handshake goodbye. And he kind of threw a Hail Mary. I told him a really dirty joke. I pulled him in and I said, "Hey, I got a question for you." And he was kind of like, "What?" And I told him this joke that I will not ever repeat. And he thought for a minute and he pulled me in closer and told me he tried to one-up me. And we kind of found a connection in dirty jokes. And he said, "What are you doing tonight?" And I said, "I don't have any plans." "Why?" And he said, "You're going to be at my house tonight for dinner. Let's talk about the company." And Charlie, Bret, and I got together that night with some people that we wanted to involve in our business, and we launched our company that we did for about 3.5 years. So that's how it happened. I don't think if I had cracked that joke, I would have ever gotten the job. Matter of fact, I know I wouldn't.
A whole career from a well-timed dirty joke.
Yep, that's true.
That's
a well-timed dirty joke.
And how is Bret Michaels? How is he? Is he a pretty cool guy?
Well, as I said, we've been practically, closest to friends for going on 28 years. I try to rid my life of horrible people. So I'd have to say I like him because, we've been through hell and back together. We met back in I want to say 93. So whatever the math is. And it's been a while. We've been through hell and back together and been through a lot of unbelievable experiences. We've traveled around the world together on projects that we did. Traveled around the world, working with him on his music. I used to do a lot of music videos for him and the guys, and we just stayed very, very close. And he's a great guy. I mean, another guy with a heart of gold who cares about his friends and wants to see them succeed. I mean, I owe a lot to Brett.
And you actually went on tour with him, right? You went on a little tour around with him?
I've been on tour with the guys, whether it's Poison or Bret Michaels' solo band. God, countless times over the years. When I wrote his autobiography for Simon and Schuster called Roses and Thorns, and I ended up going out with him, for 2 or 3 stints for a couple weeks at a time, and then there were times where I just would just go because I was friends with him and the guys in the band. I'm close to Ricky and very friendly with Bobby and Cece. And, just times you just go out and say, hey, you guys are on a 4-month tour. Why don't I come join you for a couple weeks? And you just go fly out and meet them in the Northeast and take the bus with them all the way down, and go to Florida until they eventually send you home or kick you out, or you end up, you wake up one day and the tour left without you.
That has got to be freaking sick to sit there and watch, because they probably sit there in the band and whether they just party and just play guitars and stuff in the RV and stuff, things like that. No,
I mean, they all, you have to remember these guys have had the long career they've had because they got their shit together. Right. Ricky has a lot of things that he does that have been successful, whether it's been his comic book company or his off-road life or his he's like a 5th degree black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he's got these really cool urban legend videos he does that he's got a big following for. You got Bobby, who's just a smart businessman who has always had his business sense together, and Brett, who's, Brett's kind of just been this machine, this marketing machine of himself that he's just been able to just keep this tremendous career going for so long. And it's friends hanging out, but I mean, if it was the years of getting high and just hanging out with groupies all day, I missed that one. I came into it too late. They were already 28, 30 when I met them. So I think all that 22-year-old rock star stuff had started to dissipate a little bit. But we have fun. I mean, shit. If it's football season, we're watching football games on the bus. If it's baseball season, there's a game on. And often it's fun to listen to people create. I know when he goes on the road with Pete and his solo band, they're constantly writing. They're just always jamming stuff. There's just always something being written or created when you go on the road. It's kind of neat.
Oh, that's got to be awesome to experience.
Yeah.
And I mean, just being able to see the whole process from behind the scenes. Oh, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. It's neat. It's neat to watch them go into an arena or a stadium that's, I always enjoy driving on tour, and I was staying up with the bus driver. Like if we're on a bus, if I'm on Brett's bus and we're driving, he's sleeping in his stateroom and I've got a bunk and a couple of his, his bodyguard or his assistants there. I'll usually go up and ride through the night with the driver. I just find that fascinating. And part of it is I want to know that we're going to be okay because I can drive a bus. And I have several times, and part of me is like, I want to know that this guy's not alone by himself driving at 3:00 in the morning at some crazy part of the country and dozes off. I think that's also part of it. But I enjoy that drive with the drivers. And then you arrive to an arena, and the place is quiet, it's empty, there's nothing there. And then to watch all the 18-wheelers come in and start building this little city of basically what's going to happen for the next, 16 hours and build the sets and the lights and bring in the drums and the amps, all that cool shit. It's fascinating then to be able to walk around and watch it. I even sometimes when I'm able to, I like to watch them tear it down. I'll help, but it's a lot of union jobs. They don't let you work. It's unlike my show where I'll be like, hey, anybody got a free hand? Come help. But that's all union, so that you can't help
Yeah, I was fixing to say it's probably a lot like how you feel, to them when you're building your sets and things like that, and you're being able to see, what you have on paper come to life. I bet
Sure.
that is an immense feeling. And
You're right.
I was thinking about something. The Gridiron Gangs. Now, the
Hmm.
first one, your dad had a major part in that. Correct? Back in 1992, it was a documentary, right?
Well, the documentary was shot in 90, I believe it was 1991, and could have been 89, 90. Yeah, my dad directed it, and he and I and my mom produced it, and we shot it, and that was I think it was 1991. I'd have to look. My dad and I and my mom, we had produced 7 or 8 television specials that were shot in the confines of those prisons from 1985 to 88, 89. We had a lot of success with our TV shows. We had I think, five of them air at that point. And my mom read in the LA Times that the prison that we did a lot of projects at, Camp Kilpatrick, was starting a football program. And they were going to try to teach these inner city kids that are serving long jail sentences how to play football, and try to put them to do something positive and as a team, instead of fucking each other up all the time. And so my mom came in and said to us, "Hey, look at this article. The jail that we work with up the road is doing this." And my dad was not interested. He was kind of burned out on doing the stories of the kids, and he said, "I don't think it's something I want to do." And God bless my mom. She wrote his ass like Zorro for a couple of weeks. It's like, you got to do this. You got to do this. This is like, you played football at a high level. My father played at a very well known prep school back east in Vermont. And he was a good football player, and we have a lot of football pros in our immediate circle, so it was kind of like a no-brainer. And he just didn't want to do it. And then finally, he woke up one day and said, "Oh my God, we got to do this." So he called the jail, and called up the prison, and said, "Hey, it's us. We read the article. We want to document this wonderful thing." And they laughed. They said, "Wow, get in line. Everybody in Hollywood is trying to get the rights to come up and shoot this." And it was kind of weird, because we had so much success working with them, and had been the only people that were allowed to identifiably photograph juvenile wards of the court, and to do all the things that we had done with them over the years. And they gave us no consideration. That was just, yeah, get in line, make a bid. And everybody in town was trying to get the rights to this thing. And my father, God bless him, he told the head of the camps, he said, you're getting blindsided by Hollywood. They're going to fuck you up and spit you out before you even know it. He said, it's just what they do. And I said, like, you know what, thanks. Well, get in line if you want to do it. Put your proposal out. We heard that somebody pretty significant with a major studio behind it got the rights. And about 3 weeks later, the head of probation called and said, "Well, you were right. They didn't do anything they said they would, and their check didn't clear. So if you want to get up there, start shooting, you better be up by tomorrow. That's when practice starts." So they just handed it over to us.
That's crazy.
That's what happened. So we went up there with myself and, I think it was myself, my father, Jack Flanders, Chip Brooks, and David Johnson, maybe Philip Hearn. Ken Schaefer went up there with cameras and just started shooting the hell out of practice. We just shot, captured. And it's funny, is Sean Porter, who's now the head of probation, who was the coach, he wanted us, he didn't want us there. He didn't like us, he didn't want us there. He thought we were a distraction, and I respect that. Sean was a very high-level football player in high school and college, and he had a few pros that were helping him coach that had a really good careers behind them. And we were the enemy. And I remember, him and my father had a couple of knockdown, drag-out verbals, while we were shooting up there. It's like, Sean, I see this being bigger than a little documentary. This is going to be something one day, and this is going to change millions of lives and touch millions of lives. I need your cooperation. And finally, Sean agreed to cooperate. And we ended up making the documentary, which, did really well. And after it aired, everybody and their cousin wanted it for remake rights. We went to the office the next day after it aired, and our tape machine had run out of tape with all the important people of Hollywood proper that wanted the film.
That is amazing.
And so that's what happened.
And so fast forward, and you get into, was it 2002 is when the new Gridiron Gang.
2005 or 6.
2005 or 6. So
Yeah.
there was another story. I not only bring this up because I find it relevant after hearing that, how Dwayne Johnson got the role and how your wife had come in and told you about it. And I'm thinking here, so the women that y'all married pushed y'all to keep you going filming and has helped.
Yeah, that's interesting. With my mom finding the project and forcing Dad to do it, and my wife watching A&E's Hollywood Story or whatever on The Rock when I was working with Neil Moritz, and Neil had said, you got to come up with a cast list. And my wife was like, stop what you're doing. This is your guy. I didn't know anything about him then. I knew who he was. I just didn't, it wasn't where my head was trying to get this film made after 15 years. That was the biggest problem. Is the film had stalled out with all sorts of people attached. I mean, I think we talked, there was a time I think like Forrest Whitaker and Bruce Willis and, Sean Penn, I think, and Mel Gibson. God, it was like every week the studio had somebody new attached. And it just never got off the ground. They had an absolute ass clown running the studio at the time when they first acquired the project. He would, didn't know the difference between his ass and a hole in the wall. So he screwed that up. And, finally people of power that understood how to run a business like Amy Pascal and Neil Moritz, they captured the vision and were like, let's go back to the basics. Let's strip away all the bullshit that got, added to the thing over the last 15 years. Let's go back to the original documentary you and your dad made and the original script that was written back in 93, and let's work from there. And we stayed very true to that. And I'm very proud of the film that we made.
It's a really damn good movie. I'm not even going to lie.
What's that?
It's a damn good movie. It's funny. I was a big fan of that movie. Not even gonna lie. I probably watched it 10 different times. It's funny.
You've seen it more than I have. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
It's funny how his life is working for me right now. I'm actually talking to somebody that actually, that was a part of one of my biggest, it's awesome.
That means a lot. Thank you.
But so. What's one lesson that you have taken from an early? That's not how I want to word that question. I worded it the way I wrote it. What's the biggest lesson you've learned from one of your first films that still stick to today?
Oh, that's easy. Read your contracts. And then before you sign them, read them again.
I feel that. I was in the Navy. That stands for never again volunteer yourself because you never read the fine print.
Well, there you go. I remember the first film that I ever did that somebody financed. We had a contract, and I had an entertainment lawyer represent my interests, and he did a very good job making this a fair deal. And for me, what's important is at the end of the day, you and I walk away from an agreement each feeling that we were treated fairly and that we'd want to work together again. That's my goal when I go into business with somebody. I never look for just a one-shot deal. And he worked very hard. And there were some problems in the original contracts that were very detrimental to the project's future and handling and control creatively with somebody who had no business controlling, her own menstrual cycle, let alone a film. and you know, they agreed on everything on the contract, and then had me sign it. And she had actually just undid all the changes they agreed to over the phone and redlined, and just had me sign her original contract. And I was so excited to get my first film financed and done that I had gone over everything and redlined with my attorney, and didn't think that she was going to throw the original contract back in front of me. So I ended up signing the original agreement. So
that's a good lesson to learn. Not even wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know, hey, you know, you don't make the same mistake twice, right?
Right. I mean, give yourself 3 strikes. Once you haven't learned it the third time, though, you probably stop. I would say, at least.
I like the look on T's face when I said that.
Did you hear my little giggle? I was trying not to look. I was just giggling over here. I was like, he said it. He said it. That's awesome. I love this guy.
Hey, look, you know, I'm all for political correctness until somebody equally fucks me over, then they're a fair game, you know? I'm just going to call it like it is. I don't care what you are. If you're going to screw people like that, then, you know, I appreciated her for believing in me enough to back something that I wanted to do, but what she did was blatantly pretty horrible. And you know, I watched her company run into the ground, and I don't think she doesn't work in the industry anymore. I know she got drummed out of that. So I don't know what she does.
So have you seen the industry kind of evolve through time more towards the better good of the regular workers of the industry instead of just the stars?
No. I was actually talking to my writer today, and
hold on, time out, because that face, your face is just like, fuck no.
No, it's. I mean, you know, God bless people like Jeff Sagansky and Barry Diller and a lot of people that are standing up for the indie filmmaker now. It's like the film industry, the film business is dying. It's, you know, the streaming platforms make a fortune. They pay shit. And, you know, I mean, when you have Amazon paying a penny an hour for content, a penny an hour, but you and me are going to spend, what, $119 a year to be an Amazon Prime member to watch that, and all the shit we buy on that site, they're paying their content providers a penny an hour.
Yeah, we were having that first conversation, and you're trying to show me that 1 cent check that you had.
I finally cashed that the other day. I did. I had a 1 penny check and I had a 3 penny check.
That's freaking crazy.
You know, and so no, I don't think that's better for the industry. I think it will figure itself out. It seems that, you know, the 50s were a bad time, the 80s were a bad time, and now it's time for the 20s to be tough on some of us, and the pandemic didn't help. But, you know, the streamers cry, there's just nowhere, you know, the distributor says there's nowhere to put your movies, and then they take your movie and they put it on 25 different platforms. And then they take, you know, 6 months to pay that out, and then they take their 25%, and then somebody else getting 20%. So you're getting, you know, 60% of these nickels and dimes, and I'm not crying about it. If I hated it, I'd quit. I know we're going through a phase and a cycle, but your question was, have I seen the film industry change for the better? It depends who you ask. If you're asking for the independent filmmaker that's, you know, humping on a film 18 months out of his life and holding, you know, 1,500 jobs on that film to get it pushed through to the marketplace, and the only marketplace are these streaming services that just don't take care of you. I mean, I had a friend who had a #1 film on Netflix, and you know, it looked great, and he probably got laid a lot because of it. Well, I know he got divorced, which probably means he got laid a lot, but you know, for what? I mean, you know, like he's back grinding. He's back grinding, and that's how it is for all of us. And that's not a complaint. It's a longevity survival career. But what's happened is everybody got this mindset of, oh my God, you could just put your movie anywhere. There's so many outlets for us as filmmakers now. And that's fine, but the content is so congested. When you look at Amazon, who's literally paying a penny an hour for content,
Yeah, not only that, we were actually talking about a little bit about this, the first time we talked about illegal streaming and, getting the movies cut up in clips and put on shorts to where it's just the whole channel of the whole movie. And you just play the whole movie within 30-second clips.
You could do clips and chunk a film up, or a lot of people are starting to say, screw the whole platform thing. I'm just going to put my own movie on YouTube, because if it, gets enough hits and it becomes viral or it becomes serious, there's some cats that are making some good coin doing it. Now, is it enough coin to sustain and finance movies? No. But is it a lot better than Amazon and those other ones are paying? You bet your ass they are. I mean, you have a film that saw, we have a film that saw 78 million minutes of streaming last month. Well, that sounds great, but they pay by the hour. So it turns into like 1.4 hours. And then that's times a penny.
And on top of that, the streaming platforms are so freaking flooded.
That's the problem.
Yeah. With everything.
We have a distributor friend who's got over 5,700 projects, I think films that are being streamed right now. He acquires everybody's stuff that just doesn't get anywhere, or they couldn't sell territories. He's like, hey, if you could pass QC and it's like got a beginning, middle, and end, and it's in focus, I can find a home for this. And he's placing this stuff on some very, very valid, like serious streaming platforms. Like, it's unbelievable what he's placing some of this stuff on. And he is a single person, has over 5,700 titles that he's successfully gotten out there. It's one guy.
That's crazy.
So you think about how flooded it is. So there's a part of me that understands the Amazon and, Tubi mentality of we're not paying dick for content. But once it goes on that platform, where else is this going to go for a lot of people? We're fortunate. We've got great sales agents and distributors we work with all over the globe. So, our mission is to sell a globe. There's, 170 countries, 54 territories that buy our movies. So we understand that, certain territories aren't going to do as well as others. But the industry as a whole right now, it's tough. And music went through that, with the whole, when everything happened with file sharing, the war between the artists and the labels and these people that were file sharing and the people that were hosting. I mean, it was catastrophic for many years until the labels figured out ways to work with these people. And if you ever want to see an interesting movie on that, or it's a TV series, it's called the Playlist. It's basically the creation of Spotify and how they took down Napster and LimeWire, and Spotify became the platform, and how the artists are now making money is they'll get into how much money they make. I mean, it's like a third of a penny to play or something. It's not good, but they've all learned to work together. But the one thing the musicians have that us filmmakers don't have is the touring. The musicians get to go out and tour, and that's where they make their serious bread and butter now. Mm-hmm. That they can't take away, but we don't have that. We don't have that ability. We don't get to go on a city to city and put on our dog and pony show and let off pyro and lights and sell merch. It's like you have a movie, it comes out, you've got probably 300 films that are coming out the same day or the same week, and you got to hope that you can find an audience or find somebody that's going to like your film that'll say nice things about it.
Yeah, I guess you'd have to have that film that has that one saying that's going to be forever on a T-shirt, and that's the merch. Because like Poison, they'll have merch forever, and they'll probably sell merch forever. Records.
Oh yeah, they do. They sure do.
Downloads on YouTube. I'm sure they get millions of them.
Oh yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
know I listen to them.
Hey.
I mean, on the way to work, I'll rock it out. Oh, I'll kick it back, man. Yeah, look at that. Oh man, he's got the collection going on.
I just realized that Guns N' Roses is one of the main songs I listen to on my Spotify. Don't cry.
Oh Lord, have mercy.
He said that you helped or you produced Rock of Love.
I was a consulting producer on that for Brett. He had. I got a cat that thinks it's going to eat, so it's going to get loud
Same.
for a second.
We got that same issue coming.
Yeah, I had worked with Brett for so long, and he had, God love him, he and VH1 and Leo Horowitz and all the guys at 51 Minds had created this great show, and it was so successful. And but Brett didn't have anybody on his side that I felt was film savvy or creatively savvy enough to have his best interest in mind. So I had come on and kind of was the network is there for their interest, the production company was there for their interest, and I just, as an outsider who'd been around this industry for a long time, it was evident I don't think there was anybody that truly had the talent's interest in their best interest. You know what I mean? And it just was a friend who was like, hey, I did the music videos for the show. I did a lot of behind the scenes. I did a lot of, I would go shoot stuff. Like I would go out on the road with Brett and shoot for stuff for that show. And I'd been around him for so long, and it was just kind of one of those things where it was like, we got to the point where it was like, come in and look at footage. This is a cut. We want this. So I was like, no, you're not using this, and that. It was just, you needed somebody in his corner that, had some, it wasn't him, because as the artist, you don't want to be in that situation. So I came and worked with them very well for the last couple years of the show. And we did some cool stuff. I was really happy for him to have that show. It was like, again, Brett just finding a way to just keep going and doing some really incredible things with his career.
Yeah, and I like that show. That's the only reason why I brought it up. And then I was thinking about it. My teacher was trying to get on that show.
It's funny. I used to have a lot of guys. Hey, my girlfriend wants to get on a show, or like dads would call and say, hey, my daughter wants to get on a show. And it's like, it's not going to happen. It's like, I would never allow anybody I had a remote bit of care in the world for to ever be on a show like that.
Like, I want to be honest with you. I was only in like the 6th grade, and I remember her coming in and being like,
6th grade? I mean, God damn, you know how old that makes me feel now?
Yeah, I'm really young. But I remember her coming in class bragging about trying to get onto that show. I'm not even gonna lie. She was like in love with Bret Michaels. So that's just so funny to me. When Jenna said, oh, he like knows Bret Michaels and all that. It just brought me back to like 6th grade and her and being upset.
That's funny.
So it was
That's
cool.
funny. I actually have a guitar. Let's see if I can find this. Hang on. I actually have, this was my wife's guitar she had when I met her. And if you ever watch the Fallen video, which went #1 on VH1, that I directed, he had flown in for the shoot, and he called me and he said, I don't have a fucking guitar. So I called my wife, and we shot it at A&M Studios, at Henson Studios at A&M in Hollywood. And if you ever watch the Fallen video, I always recommend that one without the Rock of Love footage. I think their footage in the music videos cheapened it. Yeah. But that's who was paying the bills, so we did what we were asked to do. You'll see that guitar. And Brett was kind enough to sign it to my wife when he came home. He came back to the house with me and hung out that night. And it was fun. I still have it. And a lot of fans have reached out to me for that guitar. They, it's one of those things where it's kind of like, I can't get rid of that one. That one's special. That's a good one. That's a good one. It doesn't stay in tune anymore.
Do what?
It doesn't stay in tune. Its neck has been warped for 20 years.
Oh, goodness gracious. Is there a lot of bloopers on that type of show that he was on?
Bloopers are things that they can't show. There's a big difference.
Oh,
outtake. Yeah, of course. Just like in any show, you got to remember a show like that, they're shooting with so many cameras. There's so much going on. And, it's just constant. And the producers on shows like that are constantly trying to manipulate, talk about things, and try to, push people to do better on the show. Those reality shows, saying it 15 years later. I grew up doing reality shows, real reality shows. I did them for, 10 years back in the 80s. And so when I look at reality shows as our society knows them, it's kind of an eye roll moment for me. But you kind of have to do it because people honestly are just not that interesting. They kind of need to be helped. It's like a friend of mine used to direct the Osbournes. You remember when that show broke?
Uh-huh.
And I remember she was like, well, we're not scripted, but we know what we're talking about. It's like everything's, kind of beat sheeted out. They beat it out. And that's kind of how they do it. And, when people are trying to follow a roadmap, especially people that are not trained actors, I think it's a recipe for a lot of funny and a lot of mistakes, and people start to get a little self-conscious. And so, yeah, you get a lot of things like, in shows like that, you get a lot of bloopers and stuff that comes out. But I think those were fun times. But, a lot of crazy. Unnecessary crazy.
What's the most unnecessary crazy thing that you've experienced so far?
On that project or just in life?
Just in general, within your time in the industry.
Unnecessary crazy, God. Unnecessary crazy. That's a good one. I would say, they all kind of blend and blur after a long time. I don't have like this one thing, but since we were just talking about Rock of Love, I remember we were doing the reunion show and we were in a sound stage and they had all the girls from the show and these two girls got into a fight. And you hearing a cat fight? It's funny. It sounds like a cat fight. It's fucking train wreck. So you've got this girl. They weren't getting along, and this one rushed her, kind of like out of Jerry Springer. Problem is, she was up on the top of these bleachers on the sound stage, and the floor was cement. And this girl ran up and attacked this other one, and she fell 6 feet and just landed on her head on the cement.
Ooh.
That definitely soured the day. That was the one where you all kind of heard the impact, and everybody just kind of went, there's nothing we can do at this point. Medics shut it down and just go with God. I hope it all worked out. That was a tough day, and that was crazy for the sake of being crazy. That was people trying to outdo themselves for this reality TV show, and that's, to me, it's unbelievable what people would do to get 5 minutes of fame on TV.
Mm-hmm.
That was a 6 to 8 foot fall backwards on the head. Cement. That sounded like a watermelon exploding on cement.
Ooh.
I never heard anything like that before.
Ooh, we can go to a lighter note. All right.
Yeah, but you asked. But it was like all for sensationalistic bullshit. I just don't understand. Crazy for the sake of being crazy. The real crazy was Van Halen not wanting any brown M&Ms, right?
Wait, whoa. He didn't like the brown M&Ms?
Don't you remember the whole Van Halen backstage? That was their rule. They couldn't have any brown M&Ms, and if they did, they would find the promoter and thrash the place. That's old rock and roll stories. Just cool shit.
No, I'd never heard of that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'll have to look that one up.
Oh, that's a famous one, yeah.
So what's one of the funniest bloopers that you've ever seen?
Funniest blooper, not funny. Well, I mean, God, you got me on there. I mean, I wouldn't have an answer for you honestly, because when you're making the film and you're in the moment, you're in the zone, and when it's funny where people don't like. Everybody thinks people are going to screw up lines. It doesn't happen. Somebody may drop a line, but it's not as funny as they make them look like in the old Burt Reynolds movies when the credits are rolling and they just cut to everybody screwing up. But I mean, God, I mean, I remember one time we had a boat getting pulled out of the water, and they didn't secure the boat. So when all the actors were in the boat, and they were supposed to go on this boat. It was in the film Break Even that we did a few years ago, and stunt coordinator didn't. Again, it's just carelessness. It's as simple as something like what happened on Rust. It's just, somebody didn't secure the fucking boat to the trailer, and they pulled the boat out, and the boat went off the trailer and slammed onto the cement, destroying the boat with 4 or 5 actors in it.
Oof.
That's, to me, is not a blooper. That's like, that's like an absolute, like, oh shit moment.
I'd have to go.
I wish it had ended up in the blooper reel. We did the DVD of that film, and they wanted a bunch of bonuses and extras, and I honestly forgot about it until after the fact. Somebody had asked me, I think it was Neil, our co-producer, he said, "Oh, did you put that shot of the boat falling off with all the actors in it off the trailer?" I went, "Oh shit, I forgot about that." No, I didn't. But that's like the biggest blooper that ever happened to me. Yeah, that was really upsetting.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that was a blooper at all. I'd say that's straight up mess up right there. That's a lapse in somebody's cognitive function for sure.
Yeah. Well said.
Either that or somebody had a hit out on one of those actors that was on that boat. You never know.
You never know. You never know.
It's Hollywood. Somebody wants their 15 minutes of fame, right?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I think it was just the hurry up. We had a really, it's funny, we had a really bad day that day because we woke up early. Our call time was 9 o'clock to do, we shot it in the spring, so we had long days. So our call time was early to shoot till dark and do all this boat stunt work. And CJ, the writer, and I got up early to go have breakfast. And one of the coordinators called me and said, "Hey, have you talked to any of the actors yet today?" And I said, "No. We were all staying in a hotel up in Ventura." And he said, "Dude, I've talked to 3 of them. They're puking their guts out, and I'm getting calls from crew. People are sick." I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "I don't know. Call me back in like 10 minutes." So I said to CJ, whoever I was with, I said, we gotta go back to the hotel. We were staying in this big hotel. We had a huge crew and a big cast. And I went back, and everybody except like 3 of us were sick. Like everybody but 3 of us were deathly ill, like literally spike fevers, like on their hands and knees, crawling in their room or on the parking lot, vomiting. I've never seen anything like it. It was like something out of a really bad movie. And we got through the day. I got to tell you, that cast and crew, we only had one person tap out and go to the hospital with dehydration. Everybody else worked through it. And I was really surprised. And we started the day very late. We limped through the day, and it was our most important day. It was our toughest day, and we limped through it. And you know what? I'm proud of what we accomplished that day, but that was the day that happened, and everybody was so sick. And if we had the budget or the schedule, we would have probably scrapped the whole day and just said, let's just circle back and do it another time. But, on an independent film, when you're buying permits to own a harbor and you're launching speedboats and jumping them, and you have the guy that drove for, Mark Wahlberg in the Italian Job and did all those boat scenes, it was our driver, and Gary Heim and Tom McComas there, who are like top tier stunt guys for the day. You don't really have the ability to say, sorry, we got to pack it up. Let's do it another day. You got to push through it because we had so much to do in a tight time. And a lot of our cast was from out of the country and had other commitments. So like we had Tasia Tellis from the 100. She lived up in Canada. We had her the day after she wrapped. She was back in Canada, back on the show. I couldn't circle back. So I had to get everything done that we had scheduled to get done. And, that's just independent filmmaking. You just have to rise above. You have to improvise. You have to say, this sucks. We got the short end of the stick today, but fuck it. We're gonna make this work anyway. And that's what you do. You just keep your head down and just figure it out.
Speaking of sickness and working through, one of your recent films, Double Threat, you filmed that through COVID. How did that go?
That was, Double Threat. We call that our COVID baby. That was a lot of fun. It was one of those things, Jonah, where we were at 7 months in on the pandemic. I think it was like September. So what is that? April, May, June, July, August, September. 6 months in, and I called my writer, and I said, dude, like everybody, we haven't left our four walls, with the exception to run into a market and try to grab something without dying, right? And I said, I got to get out of the house. I got to make a movie. I'm losing my shit. And he said, well, I'm in London. I can't do anything. We're on real lockdown here. And I'd wanted to work with Danielle C. Ryan before the pandemic. Her reps had got us together on a project that fell out because of the pandemic, and she was really down to play and do something. And we were really fortunate. We got somebody who honestly was just a dear friend that felt bad for us filmmakers. And it was like, he just said, God, I don't know why you guys are just not able to go out and work. I feel terrible. And if you want me to get behind something and support what you're trying to do, I'll do it. Just, we have to be very careful because everybody was getting shut down. They had started filming again, but Batman and Jurassic Park and all those films were getting shut down. So there was a lot of risk, and a lot of the money was going to COVID protocols.
Right.
30%, under about 24% of our budget, 20% of our budget went to COVID.
Wow.
And that's stuff that doesn't go on a screen, and so we just got a very tight cast and crew. We had, Danielle C. Ryan, we had Matthew Lawrence, we had Don Olivieri from Yellowstone in 1883, and Kevin Joy and Mo Galini from Fast and Furious, and just put like 4 or 5 of them to, we had to separate them. We can only use 2 actors at a time. There were all these rules. We couldn't drive into cars with the cameras and the actors, so we had to green screen everything, which I really hate. And we just decided to embrace it. Just have fun, and we did, and had a tireless cast and crew that just worked. I mean, we just bit the bullet, and we just said, look, if anybody gets sick, we're shut down. We can't afford it. The movie is dead if anybody gets sick. So I said, everybody just hold each other accountable. Try not to go out and goof off and get sick. Just stick it out with us. You all bitched and moaned that you haven't worked in 9 months or 8 months. Here's your opportunity. You're getting paid. I just need you to do your end of the deal so we can cross the finish line, so we have something to show for it at the end of the day. And we tested, we did over 435 COVID tests in a 5-week period. Not one person popped positive. Not one person.
Oh, that's amazing.
We were so fortunate. And, I was talking to people on other films. They were getting shut down left and right. They just couldn't keep people healthy. We were really fortunate because it was November, December of 20. We had those huge winter spikes again. It was that first year that we were shooting, and we were really fortunate.
You said y'all came up with it pretty quick, didn't you?
Yeah, CJ wrote the script in 4 days. I had always had this idea. I was traveling to Mexico with my dad years ago and saw this really attractive young woman working in this liquor store gas station 300 miles south of the border. It was one of those things where it was like, this doesn't add up. Like, what is she doing here? So I always kind of had that thought in my mind is like, this would, like, where could your imagination go to create a really cool, gritty, independent film? And that's where the film opens up, is in this gas station liquor store that Matthew Lawrence's character goes into. And there's this pretty girl working there that kind of go, why is she here? And so, I kind of let my imagination go. And I threw it at CJ and was just kind of like, hey, this is a story that I experienced in Mexico. And what do you think about this? And what if she's like this dual agent? And he was just like, no, I think that's been overdone. He was, what if she's, suffering from associative identity disorder where, somebody actually has such a split personality. It's not bipolar or split personality. It's an identity disorder where like they become two different people. Mm-hmm. And so we explored that and some of the facts behind that. And we wanted to make an exploitation, fun, female action thriller. Just an action comedy. We can't take this seriously. We have no money to make it. Let's just have fun. That was the whole point of Double Threat. But we knew Danny could whip ass in stunts. And I had Doc Duhame, who, is one of the best fight coordinators in Hollywood. Doc and Danny and his goons worked together for, a few days to build that, the big fight scene that was at the ravine. And I'm really proud of what they did. I'm really proud of what they achieved. And that film is literally, you and I were talking about the plug in and play rock and roll mentality that I try to put in my films. That was, if there was ever a film that was literally just plug in and play, let's just see what sticks. That's what that was. It was put together. CJ had a shooting script in 4 days and we cast it in about a week. And, I talked earlier about needing all this prep time. All that was shortened tremendously. Because, we conceptualized it in September and we're shooting by November. So I had, a little more than half of the time I like to prep a film. But we knew what we were getting into. We weren't taking ourselves seriously. We didn't even know if the film would ever get a release because just, COVID circumstances, crew of 8, cast of 4, what do we got?
We're
really fortunate.
It's a pretty good movie. I watched it all the way through. I was in it.
Oh, I'm glad you made it all the way through. Thank you.
I was like, it threw me for a loop because, what?
That's an accomplishment for Jonah. He doesn't watch movies very much.
Yeah, bro, I don't watch movies. I don't watch
doesn't.
TV.
So,
I don't watch nothing.
Him to make
okay. Thank you for covering his ass, T.
No, it's true because he'll fall asleep or he'll just forget he's watching something and be in his own little world and walk off. I think the only movie I've ever got him to actually watch all the way through is Moana, and it's just
which one?
To him. Moana, like the Disney princess movie.
Oh,
yeah.
I haven't seen that.
Sit there and just mesmerized over all the colors.
You like that, huh? Get a couple of edibles in you and just mesmerized over the colors, huh?
It's ridiculous.